An oil spill from the oil tanker MT New Diamond could be the biggest environmental catastrophe in the world. A word of caution from the Marine Environmental Protection Authority. International support to douse the oil tanker fire. Samagi Jana Balavegya to go to court against the 20th Amendment. Anurukumara explains how the President usurped powers of the Prime Minister through the 20th Amendment. US President Trump asked constituents to vote twice at the upcoming US presidential election.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Bernadine Chai Singha. Let's now take a look at local news. The Marine Environment Protection Authority has said that an oil spill has not taken place from the New Diamond oil tanker that caught fire yesterday. However, this has not reduced the threat on Sri Lanka's waters. The Air Force released latest visuals of the oil tanker at around 5 p.m. today. According to the Marine Environment Protection Authority, an oil spill from the vessel could result in the biggest environmental catastrophe in the world.
A media briefing was convened this morning by the heads of the tri-forces and the relevant authorities to clarify the current situation of the blaze and the possible impact it can have on the environment.
This blaze broke out when the oil tanker was 35 nautical miles off the coast of Sri Lanka. However, the engines of the ship are down and the ship is afloat. The ship is drifting towards the island. The oil tanker is currently 22 nautical miles off the coast of Sri Lanka.
The latest situation of the fire on board the ship.
I can clearly explain the current situation. There is a risk of an oil spill in Sri Lankan waters. The sea is deep there. There is nothing for the ship to collide on. This ship is 22 nautical miles away from the shore. According to the currents of the water in the area, the ship is moving parallel to the shore towards the south, very slowly. There is about 20 meters or 60 feet of water below the ship. There were 23 people on board the ship. 19 of them are in the custody of the Navy. They are unharmed. One person who sustained severe burn injuries was admitted to the hospital and his condition has improved since then. The captain and another member of the crew of the ship is on board an Indian Coast Guard ship. He has been informed of the situation and with his consent, efforts to douse the fire using ships and tugboats are ongoing. After questioning the crew members rescued from the ship, it was revealed that the fire had first erupted at the boiler room or the engine room of the ship. One person had been injured during an explosion at that time and they were not able to rescue him. Under the current situation, it is hard to say that this crew member might still be alive.
How did the fire erupt on the ship?
The fire first erupted in the engine room and then smoke began to emit through the tunnels. The fire then spread to the superstructure. The superstructure is the location from which the ship is controlled. This is where the communications and the steering wheel of the ship is located. There is a difference between this section of the ship and the front portion that carries the crude oil. The section carrying the crude oil is still safe. Although the ship is 20 years old, it has been certified by Japan. The ship has a second hull beneath the hull that can be seen on the outside. In between that, there is a section that is filled with water, so there is a very low chance that the crude oil in the tanker could be damaged. We're using tugboats to spray seawater onto that area and keep this area cold.
What is a threat to Sri Lanka's waters?
This particular incident, we divided into two parts. First part is that Navy actually, if they can take care of the fire and if they can douse it, that is what we are expecting. If not, then there will be a severe threat to our environment if any kind of leakages occur. They are developing a comprehensive plan to combat if any kind of oil spill occurs, and this actually will be a huge, severe disaster, one of the biggest environmental disaster that would have happened in the world. We actually have very minimal resources at the moment. Basically, now when the oil spill occurs, it actually gets emulsified. It becomes a kind of sludge, actually, as you correctly mentioned. So basically, collecting and disposing will be the only option that we have, and also for that, it will take a lot of time, maybe 3-4 months, and we'll have to actually employ a lot of human resource, and it actually will be a severe disaster.
Is there any truth to the claims that there is a leak in the hull?
This morning we had a report that is the CEO of the Indian Coast Guard vessel reported to his headquarters that what he sees in his naked eye. So he reported that there's a crack on the port quarter of the ship, and what he has observed, he has reported, and that same report has come to us. Now these cracks are because of the intense heat. The fire is mainly contained to the port quarter of the ship. If I be more precise, it is right under the superstructure toward the port side. So when you have intense heat in one place for quite a long of time, naturally the steel plates get deformed, the welding line get cracked, and you will start to see this crack. It's going to happen. It's very natural. But it doesn't mean the ship is breaking apart. It doesn't mean that the spill is going to take place.
Does Sri Lanka have the capacity to manage an oil spill if it occurs?
In fighting oil, there's something called boom laying. So you encircle the complete ship. Now the ship is 333 meters. So on one side you need 350, other side you need 350, that is 700. And further, let's say 700 on the front and back. So 1,500 meters is quite enough to encircle it. Now remember, this is 20-meter draft, and there's an intense pressure underneath the water. And that pressure itself limits the oil spill, anything coming out. These are practical experience in the trade, in these scenarios. So we are aware of that. Indian Navy is aware of that. Indian Coast Guard is aware of that. Our own officers are aware of that. So I am sure with that we will be able to curtail.
What is the legal action that can be taken against those responsible?
If an oil spill occurs, we will definitely approach the insurance companies and the company that owns the vessel to identify how we can address the damage that can be caused to our waters. As per the advice of the Attorney General, we are taking the necessary action to initiate legal action. As a preliminary move, we filed a complaint with the Tirukkovil police station yesterday.
Tirukkovil police station අපි මූලික පැමිණිල්ලක් සිද්ධ කරලා තියෙනවා.
Can we state that a criminal process will be instituted?
It is a criminal process.
Well, if there's any oil spill, if oil spill occurs, yes, definitely we'll have to take criminal action against the connected parties.
The ship at the moment is basically drifting in the ocean because it's not under engine. There is no people who are driving the ship or anything like that. It's an empty ship. So it's basically being moved with the wind and the local currents. And many things can happen. The heat of the fire can actually make cracks, and that would release oil when the ship is offshore. The currents could actually bring the ship ashore and run aground, and that's the worst case scenario because you would have all the oil being released on the beaches, which would be completely environmental disaster, which will last for many years, and the critical period is next 24 to 48 hours to bring the ship under control so that it can be towed away. The ship actually has 2 million barrels of oil. That's the massive amount of oil, and really Sri Lanka or even many developed countries do not have that capacity to deal and to control an oil spill of that magnitude. Overnight, the winds were very weak, so the ship was mainly driven, going with the currents, which was bringing it closer to the coastline. And then this afternoon, I believe the winds have changed, to more southerly, and so now the ship is more parallel to the coastline. Of course, the areas such as Arugambe, Potuville, depends if the winds actually move it further north, then further north would be more affected.
Meanwhile, the Indian Coast Guard has tweeted that the fire on board the fuel tanker has been brought under control post massive firefighting effort by the Indian Coast Guard and the Sri Lanka ships and aircraft. When inquired, Sri Lanka Navy said that the fire has been doused to a certain extent and that efforts are underway to tow the ship to prevent it from drifting to shallow waters.
The JVP today made known their stance on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution.
මේ 20 වෙනි සංශෝධනය හරහා මේ ආණ්ඩුව උත්සාහ කරමින් තිබෙන්නේ ශිෂ්ටත්වයේ සිට.
Through the 20th Amendment, the government is trying to pull back the country from greatness. The system of democratic institutions are going to be transformed into a tribal era. The parliament has the powers to formulate laws. The president does not have the power to exert undue influence on the parliament under the existing amendment. It was the parliament that decided on its existence for 4.5 years since being convened. However, the proposed amendment allows the president to decide on the existence of the parliament within a year. It was the Constitutional Council that had the power to choose the Chief Justice and the judges of high courts. However, this power too is to be brought under the president. Therefore, they are trying to bring the judicial system under their purview through the 20th Amendment. In addition to this, the president also has the powers to remove a minister who is subject or to reappoint a minister. Therefore, the 20th Amendment attempts at vesting absolute power with the president just as a tribal leader. There were shortcomings in the 19th Amendment. The commissions failed to uphold the level of independence expected by the people. We must admit that. However, if the government is to lead the country towards greatness, what must have been done is to rectify the shortcomings in commissions through an amendment. The independent nature of commissions have been wiped off completely under the proposed new amendment. They are a group that operates under the president. There were two important commissions, namely the National Audit Commission and the National Procurement Commission. They have removed that completely and vested powers with the president to appoint the Auditor General.
The Janata Vimukti Peramuna points out that the proposed amendment has slashed the powers of the Prime Minister as well.
I don't know what sort of a decision Mahinda Rajapaksa would take. The fate of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa under President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has been spelt out in the draft amendment. Just as Prime Minister Premadasa said, the Prime Minister does not enjoy powers that are even held by an office assistant. The cabinet of ministers is above him now and they have become powerful.
Views were expressed on the provisions pertaining to dual citizenship and urgent bills as well.
They have removed the provision that obstructed a dual citizenship parliamentarian from becoming a president. Therefore, I think Basil Rajapaksa has understood that it is easy to amend Sri Lanka's constitution more than renouncing the US citizenship. The immunity enjoyed by the president before the 19th Amendment has been restored. A case can't be filed against the president even if he attempts to steal or violate the fundamental rights of the people. The people have absolutely no chance to question any urgent bill. The government is discussing 5 bills pertaining to the labour sector at present. These are bills that violate the rights of the workers. Once this amendment is passed, the government will be able to pass urgent bills within 24 hours. The 19th Amendment imposed a maximum limit on the number of ministers. Was the government given a 2/3 majority to allow the president to appoint an indefinite number of ministers? Therefore, this constitutional amendment is undemocratic and harmful to the people. We wish to express our objection against the amendment.
Will the government be able to obtain a 2/3 majority to pass the amendment?
When the 17th Amendment was brought forward to establish independent commissions and strengthen democracy, there was only one parliamentarian who objected that. When the 17th Amendment was abolished to bring forward the 18th Amendment, the parliamentarians expressed a 2/3 majority for that. They also supported moves to abolish the sense of dictatorship that was created through the 18th Amendment and to pass the 19th Amendment that sought to strengthen democracy. They will also raise their hands to abolish the democracy that was brought out by the 19th Amendment and to establish dictatorship. What sort of parliamentarians are they? What sort of a political vision do they have? This shows that they are willing to support any unlawful activity for the sake of power.
The Samagi Jana Balavege has expressed its views on the parliamentarians who supported the 19th Amendment to the Constitution and are now considering to abolish it.
All parties in parliament supported the 17th amendment. It was brought forward by Chandrika. Even Mahinda Rajapaksa supported it. For the first time, the 17th amendment brought out the Constitutional Council. After abolishing the 17th amendment and passing the 18th amendment, the absolute powers of the president were restored. Just as they voted for the 17th amendment, the opposition supported every single section of the 19th amendment that we brought forward. I was the leader of the House at that time. Everyone in Parliament voted for that. The United National Party had only 42 seats, but we received a 2/3 majority for that. If they didn't vote for that, then we wouldn't have been able to bring forward this amendment. Dinesh Gunawardena proposed amendments to each and every section in the amendment. Even Vasudeva and Nudega Mampila did so. That's how the 19th amendment was passed.
The Samagi Jana Balawege has decided to take legal action against the 20th amendment.
The most dangerous feature of the 20th Constitution is that the independent nature of the courts and high-ranking positions. We can term this as a beginning of a journey in dictatorship. Therefore, when this amendment is brought to court, we will request the Supreme Court to provide us the required support to safeguard its independent nature. They are saying that this is required to establish a strong government. However, under the 20th Amendment, Parliament can be dissolved within a year. How can this lead to a stable government?
Views were expressed on the fate that has befallen the Independent Audit Commission.
Now it is the President who will appoint the Auditor General. What have they done through the 20th Amendment? They have scrapped off the Presidential Secretariat and the Prime Minister's office. That cannot be audited. Under the 19th Amendment, the Auditor General was vested with the powers to carry out an audit on any institution which the state has an ownership share of 50% or more. That has been abolished under the 20th Amendment. What are they doing? They supported the 17th, 18th and 19th and are also attempting to support the 20th Amendment. Where is their policy? The people saw the mess that was created due to the 19th Amendment. The powers of the President and the Prime Minister were divided. No one had absolute power. That is why the people gave us a strong mandate to save the country from this situation. If the President is appointed by the people, he should have the strength to take the decision on behalf of the people. If he is to consult absurd commissions before making decisions, it would be better to vote for the commissions. If the sovereign powers lies with the President, the executive powers must also be vested with him and not in the hands of the NGOs. Those who have fallen down in politics are raising several accusations. We must not be bothered by that. If you look at the speeches that were made during the debate pertaining to the 19th Amendment, we have spoken against that. We have made speeches pointing out the negative side of that amendment that can be seen in the Hansard. Therefore, we made critical remarks about the 19th Amendment since then. We had to vote for that due to the influence exerted. By the groups which believed that there was no reason to object it. Apart from them, we continue to criticize the 19th Amendment. During the previous parliamentary election, our mandate was to rectify the mistakes that were created by the 19th Constitutional Amendment. This was the same in the presidential election. Therefore, I have already put forward my opinion on this.
Anunayaka of the court Sri Kalyani Samagri Dharma Mahasangha Sabha Professor Venerable Kutapitiye Rahula Thero convened a media briefing and spoke of the new appointments made by the government.
Morogoda removed his dual citizenship even before Honorable President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. It's not suitable to make false claims. On what basis have some said that he engaged in treacherous activities? According to data leaked by WikiLeaks, GL Pires is suitable to work with the United Kingdom. Is it inappropriate? Isn't it an honor for our country when another country is recognizing a citizen of our country? Isn't it favorable if, as the Indian High Commission, he can work together with India? I don't see anything wrong in that. If there is something wrong with this, we will realize it while it's happening. I believe that it is bad to ruin someone's reputation before they are assigned with a task. I believe that as responsible Buddhist theros, most of us reject false claims made against Milinda Morogoda during the past few days.
බෞද්ධ භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා හැටියට වගකිය යුතු භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා හැටියට බොහෝ දෙනෙක් ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා කියලා. මම ඒක
මිලින්ද මොරගොඩ වැසිතුමා ඉන්දියාවේ තානාපති.
A problem has arisen in the country offering Milinda Murugoda the post of High Commissioner to India. It is not our responsibility to appoint ambassadors and high government officials. It is the duty of those in power such as the President and Prime Minister to appoint those officials. Murugoda, a person with whom I have associated for a very long time. More than politics, Milinda Murugoda is a person who has engaged actively in social service and has understood the hearts of the poor and the innocent people. When the Abhayarama temple didn't have any assembly hall, it was Milinda Murugoda who laid the foundation and brought forward the proposal to construct a hall. I wish to gratefully remind that, although various views are expressed offering him an appointment, I can say that Milinda Murugoda is a person who has worked for the society, the nation and the religion.
In more local news, an additional secretary at the Higher Education Ministry has said that the application submitted by Batiklo Campus Private Limited seeking authority to offer local degrees had been rejected by the ministry. He made these remarks in a testimony at the Presidential Commission probing the April 21st attacks today.
In a testimony, Additional Secretary to the Higher Education Ministry, Kamal Rohita Udwalava said that the ministry had rejected an application filed by Batiklo Campus Private Limited seeking authority to offer local degrees on the 4th of April last year. He told the Presidential Commission probing the 2019 April 21st attacks that the application had been rejected as the institution had failed to provide its independence financial ability to manage the campus. According to the witness, a Parliament Sectoral Oversight Committee in June 2019 had informed the ministry that Batiklo campus had obtained foreign funds to the tune of 5 billion rupees as soft loans. However, he noted that Batiklo Campus Private Limited had not declared any source of foreign funding in its application submitted to the ministry.
Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe accepted the Anti-Corruption Secretariat established by the National Executive Council carried out certain illegal activities.
The former Prime Minister testified at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe incidents of political victimization on the complaint filed by Dr. Nihal Jayatilaka, the former Secretary to the Ministry of Economic Development. The former Prime Minister testified to claim that the National Executive Council was not established as per the provisions of any law. Ranil Wickremesinghe said that a committee comprising of various political parties, civil organizations and professionals who supported Maithripala Sirisena at the 2015 presidential election formed a committee and later named it as the National Executive Council.
An event to declare open an elders' home took place in Polonnaruwa under the patronage of former President Maithripala Sirisena today.
State Minister Roshan Ranasinghe and parliamentarians Kins Nelson and Amarakirita Korala were present during the event.
We have heard about incidents in which parents have been abandoned on the streets. When we speak to the people at elders' homes, we can see that they do not come from poor and innocent families, they come from wealthy backgrounds. When we take into consideration the cases pending in courts, we can observe that some children have thrown their parents out of their lands by citing ownership. We only live for a few years. Leaving everything else aside, we must realize that it is important to live in unity. Therefore, at a time when we are bracing ourselves to embark on a new journey, I met with former President Maithripala Sirisena in Parliament. He is a person whom I respect as a senior. Therefore, I went and wished him. We wish to remind that this elders' home is going to be a massive strength to us in the political activities in the Polonnaruwa district and also our efforts to uplift the area.
The fifth edition of the Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign that is being carried out to listen to the problems of the people got underway today as well.
Three-wheelers that transport water instead of passengers are a common sight for the people in the Puhulyaya village in Ratnapura. While people in several parts of the country start their day with fresh ambitions, the people in this village ponder over the methods through which they can obtain water. Villagers who travel to the village of Komarika in a three-wheeler quench their thirst with meager amounts of water that they manage to collect. While the problems pertaining to the shortage of water persists, the woes of the people are worsened further due to their cultivation. This is because their crops are destroyed by peacocks and squirrels.
Although it is not common at present, these animals drop all the coconut shells at the foot of the tree. We feel sad when we see that.
Wells have been dug in several areas in the Irutumadu area in Mullatiu. However, the people have not been able to quench their thirst. Water that is found in some wells are unfit for consumption. Desperate to obtain water, the villagers of Irutumadu are forced to consume this water regardless of the health risks that they face. As a result, they suffer throughout their lives with kidney-related ailments. It is with much hardship that we worked even during the war. However, until today, the people in the area have been suffering due to the lack of a proper plan. These are the tears of the people of Monaratanna. The people in this village told the government team that wild elephants claim at least 3 lives every year, while also damaging between 10 to 12 houses in the area. Around 350 families in the Monaratanna village in Valikanda earn a living through agriculture. Despite cultivating crops across 440 acres of land, at least 40 acres are being destroyed by elephants. Wild elephants enter the village from the Somavatiya and Maduru Oya reserves. An electric fence erected about a kilometer from the village does not serve its purpose due to the absence of power. The request of these villagers is for an electric fence.
The world is moving towards a sustainable future. Protecting the environment is no longer an option, and individuals and organizations alike must embrace environmentally friendly practices in order to succeed. It is with this in mind that News First will dedicate a minute of our news time for environmental issues starting tomorrow. The Green Minute will bring you the latest news and information on creating a sustainable future by protecting our environment. Make sure your brand is part of the Green Minute and leads the green revolution. With that, we wrap up Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Chai Singha, and the interpreter tonight is Taraka. Good night. Take care.